Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. I'm going to do something right now that I have not ever done in one of these videos, and it's almost a promo, but just bear with me, it'll be over quickly. Perfect Keto is doing a Father's Day sale, and normally I wouldn't bother even telling you anything about it because we just did that Memorial Day sale not that long ago, but they reached out to me and said they wanted to do a special exclusive deal for my viewers. So here it is. The regular deal, and this runs from today until Sunday the 18th, is buy two, get one free. So if you plan it out and you buy only things that cost the same amount and you do them in increments of three, you'll get 33% off. But on top of that, if you use the code SK, like Serious Keto, SK Extra 10 at checkout, you'll get an extra 10% off, getting you almost a 40% off. And actually, if you multiply it out, it's a little more than 39%, like 39.5, assuming again that you're buying in quantities of three and all the things you're buying are the same amount. So I'm probably going to get some more keto bars. I realized that my stash was a little bit light on that, especially given that it's summer and we're going to be doing a little bit more traveling, little road trips here and there. And then our trip to Hawaii for Connor and Jaden's wedding. I learned on our last flight to Hawaii that meals, whatever, I think we were on Delta and meals were not free. And it's very hard to get something worthwhile and keto on a long flight or any flight. So I think I ordered a hamburger and well, I don't know what else it came with. Basically, the only thing that was edible from a keto standpoint was the burger patty. So I wound up paying about $12 for a not very good burger patty. Anyhow, I will include a link for the Perfect Keto sale down in the description below. Also, any order over $75, you get a free NOLA sampler pack. So that's it. That's as close as we get to a promo, at least for right now on this channel. When I did that video last week, the giveaway video with my grandson Colton, I got a lot of people either asking or commenting about Colton, his age, and his reading ability. So just to let everybody know, he's 4 years old, and he's reading at about a first or second grade level. Those are the books that he reads right now. He has somehow managed to get all of the right DNA, I think, through both of our families. He's a pretty bright kid, and he's already taken up a huge interest in cooking. He loves herbs, and he can identify herbs and tell you what goes good with what. He's starting to learn pairings, and who knows, maybe we'll have him lead a recipe video. I'll probably do the talking, but I'll let him do the cooking. That may be coming in the near term. The next topic is a quickie. It's about the number of direct messages I've been getting lately about these custom keto flowers that some other channels are making and the use of bamboo fiber or bamboo flower. I'm not sure. I haven't actually watched any of these videos, and not because I'm, all full of myself, but because I just haven't really had a whole lot of interest in keto baking for, well, quite a while. I think if I look back just over the course of 2023, I think the closest I've come to baking, well, I did use the Keto Bakes pie crust to make a rhubarb and cream cheese tart. That was pretty yummy and could wind up being a video. But aside from that, I think the only thing I've done, I've made like 2 batches of chaffles and just, a batch of 2 chaffles. So I think I've made 4 chaffles in total over the course of this year. And that's been it. I don't know. My interest in baking has largely waned. I'm more interested in eating protein and preparing protein. And that's really kind of where my focus has been. So no need to direct message me anymore about the baking topics because it's kind of not really been in my wheelhouse. And there's a lot of other channels that I think do a far better job at it than I would. So I will leave it to them. Which brings me to the topic of recipes. A question that I got when I queried all of you what would be some good podcast topics is how do I come up with recipes? And there's a number of different ways. Sometimes, well, I think I've mentioned this before. I have a spreadsheet. Yeah, I'm kind of geeky that way, but a spreadsheet of every recipe that I have in a couple of big binders and every recipe in every issue of Milk Street magazine. So I think it's up to about 1,900 recipes or so. And I've classified all of them as either could be keto or sort of coincidentally keto, could be modified into keto, and there's just no way it could be keto. And interestingly, some of the ones that I classified as there's just no way, that has kind of changed a little bit with some new ingredients. For example, I think the lupini pasta has enabled a number of different recipes and rice type dishes and risotto and things like that. But what I tend to do is I'll go back and I'll look at the recipes that I've categorized as modifiable and say, all right, so what could I do to take this not keto recipe and substitute out one, two, three ingredients and make it keto? So that's one way. And whenever I have a source recipe like that, whether it's Food and Wine or Milk Street or America's Test Kitchen, I always make sure to give them credit that that was the inspiration. The other thing I'll do is as I watch a cooking show like America's Test Kitchen or Milk Street, I'll make a note on my phone, just the name of the recipe. And then what I'll do is I'll let enough time pass that I've kind of forgotten what I've watched, and then I'll return to that particular thing. I'll see the words and say, "Ooh, I should make whatever it is." I don't know right now. I suppose I could look at my phone and see. So, for example, there's firecracker chicken thighs. I don't know if that was America's Test Kitchen. I maybe, but that's one maybe coming at some point in the future. Also, sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night, like to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water or something like that. And as I'm lying back down, an idea will pop into my head. And again, I'll put it into the phone here. So for an example, I wrote zucchini applesauce. So those are the first two ways, and those are probably the more predictable, I guess. They're the more likely to turn out good for me. The third way is sometimes I'll be cooking and I'll just get some sort of random crazy idea and I'll try it, and those aren't nearly as predictable. But when they do turn out, they tend to be a lot more innovative. One of the things, and it was in my What I Eat in a Week video, there was a sort of stuffed long pepper that I tried doing. And I think that the pepper walls were just, they weren't thick enough to handle all of the ingredients that I put into them. And I was trying to create this sort of pork rind panko crust on it. So it would have been a little bit like a chili relleno. I realize that a chili relleno has sort of an egg batter around it, but having sort of a stuffed pepper on the half shell with a crusty top, that's what I was shooting for, and it didn't turn out all that great. I mean, if you watch the video, you saw what it looked like. Tasted good, but it's not a recipe that I would then unleash on all of you. So those are the three main ways. I'm either inspired by a non-keto recipe, or I have some thought that I wake up in the middle of the night and I write down, or I'm doing some crazy kitchen experimentation. Those I think are the main ways that I come up with recipes. For the second half of this podcast, it's more of a personal thing, more like Steve's life sort of thing, rather than a keto thing. One of the topics is rummage sales, because right now Terry is having a rummage sale, and that means I hide out in the basement. I'm not going to say I'm not a people person, but the people that show up at a rummage sale, first of all, they really kind of run the spectrum of humanity. So in terms of categories, I think you've got like the bargain hunter, or especially people shopping for children's clothes. Because kids, they grow so fast, they grow out of clothes. You buy something, they wear it a handful of times, and it's still practically new. So rummage sales, I think, are a great place for parents to come and get clothes for their kids that are practically new and that then they'll grow out of in a couple of months. So that's one group. Then you have the other group that I think are people that they want to find that special thing that they can then eBay. And these people are pretty easy to identify because they come up and they ask very specific questions like, do you have any old Nintendo cartridges? Because maybe they'll find that one, that diamond in the rough, that they can turn around and sell for a couple $100s on eBay. Or, do you have any old coins? Or have you discovered a Picasso painting in your attic or something like that? So that's group number two. Group number three are the people that they want to come and haggle over little things. For example, I have at our rummage sale a bunch of Disney DVDs. And they're not Blu-rays, they're just regular DVDs. And a number of them are on Disney Plus, but some of them aren't. They're not available anymore. And some of them are special editions, with additional footage or making of or things like that. But basically, I priced all the Disney DVDs at $5, knowing that people are probably going to want to negotiate a little bit. But some of them I think are well worth that price. Regardless, you'll get people that'll come and say, I'll give you $1. And I've mentioned this in podcasts before, probably last year during the Rummage sale. That is not a good way to negotiate. And uh, I had some people offer for 57 Disney DVDs, a number of which are special editions, $100. I'm just like, come on. There's not even a middle ground we're going to reach here. And they're like, okay, fine. And then they go and they get in their Cadillac Escalade. And I just don't want to deal with those sort of people. So I hide out down in the basement and record a podcast. Finally, as a follow-up to the two truths and one lie, or one untruth, whatever we decide to call it, I want to talk a little bit more about boxing because I got a lot of questions about that. Like, how long did I box? Why did I do it? And so on. Back when I was in my late 30s, I decided I wanted to start challenging myself. This process lasted for about 2 years. And one of the challenges that I thought I would try is to box, to learn how to box, to get into a good enough shape that I could fight in this tough man competition, the Milwaukee Rumble. And I was working out, I think 4 nights a week, 3 hours, and it was an amazing workout. And one of the things that we would do in the workout is get punched intentionally. So you would line up with a partner, you would stand across from them, and they would just pop jabs right into your forehead, just repeatedly. And you would sit there and you would take it. And the goal is to get to the point where you didn't flinch, you didn't blink, it didn't stun you at all. You could just sit there and just get jabbed over and over again without it bothering you too much, I guess, or at least showing that it bothers you. And I think due to that exercise, I can probably say I have been punched in the face probably more than 99% of the population. And I think that whole getting punched over and over and over again thing can sort of be a metaphor for a lot of things in life where you're getting stronger and you're letting things not bother you. I think YouTube comments, for example, that's one of them. Just having a social media presence. I think a lot of people start off feeling a lot more sensitive and a lot more easily hurt by people's comments or feedback. Certainly I was. And now just, you get to a point where when you get 400, 500 comments a day, there's going to be a certain percentage of them that aren't altogether pleasant. And you can either let that ruin your day, which I used to, or now you don't even care. So that I periodically, when I'm borderline irritated by a comment, I just remember this is just getting punched. It's just building up the strength. One of the things that I was sort of proud of in my boxing career over the course of a year is I never got knocked out. I was out on my feet once, and there's a phrase, I think it's like having your lights turned out or something like that. It's interesting because as I got hit, in the back of my head, I actually heard the sound of like the pull cord when you have like a light in a closet or in your basement, that chink sort of sound. That's what I heard. I remember it distinctly to this day. And everything went black. And all I could think is, protect yourself, protect yourself. And I heard my coach say, Steve, are you okay? Do you need me to stop the fight? And I must have responded somehow because he didn't stop the fight. And eventually, my vision came back and I realized that I still had my hands up. But that's an interesting experience. In terms of knocking someone else out, I did that once, and that is kind of a wild experience. So there was a kid in the boxing club. A lot of these kids were behavior problems. I think their parents put them in there to learn some discipline. And this particular kid, I think, was already a bully, and now he was learning how to box. He was probably 17 or 18 years old and outweighed me by easily 30 to or 40 pounds, had a couple inches of height on me, and just had it in for me from day one. From the day I stepped into the boxing gym, he did not like me, and it was pretty obvious. And he constantly wanted to fight me. He wanted to spar against me. And eventually, Coach Oscar said, "Go ahead, get in there and fight him, Steve." And one of the moves that I was kind of good at was this. It's a move where you bat down someone else's punch as it's coming in, and then you just flow right into a jab. So it's like bap. And I was really, really frustrating him with this move, and he was getting tired and more tired. And by the third round, he was having a hard time even keeping his hands up. And the coach said, "Knock him out, Steve." And I couldn't bring myself to punch him in the face or in the head at all, just because he was defenseless. And so instead, I threw a right hook into his side, and he collapsed. And this next part I don't feel especially good sharing with you, but he then went to the locker room and he sat down on a bench and cried. And he said, "I'm not boxing anymore." And he came back the next day to clean out his locker, and I had printed out a copy of the Man in the Arena speech by Teddy Roosevelt. If you're not familiar with it, I'll link to it down in the description below. It's all about it's not the critic who counts. It's easy basically to stand on the sidelines and be a critic. It's a lot harder to get in the ring. And I gave him that, and he still cleared out his locker like he was done. And he came back the next week. So hopefully, I don't know. I don't know if I had anything to do with encouraging him to come back. He still didn't like me very much, but, not everyone's gonna. But that is going to be it for this podcast. Remember the Perfect Keto buy two, get one free plus 10% off sale. I will link to down in the description. And who knows, maybe next week I'll ask you if you've got any more podcast topic ideas. But until then, thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.